Robert, you're still here.
But
we're just continue
it
talking.
it was a physical happening.
So this is 2 months ago, and it's now August of 2012.
So it was
Yeah.
around the 1st of July, or around the middle of June. And and I knew that I was dying. It wasn't, gee, I hope I don't die. There was no fear. There was no need of doctors. There was nothing that was going to change it if I had to go through that. Because it was okay.
Felt at peace.
Perfect peace.
Yeah.
You see, and perfect peace casts out all fear.
Yeah, it does.
It passes our understanding. But I remember a situation in Calgary a number of years ago where I always had a fear of water. I could swim, but not very well. But there was something. It was like my trying to float a 40-pound rock on my back swimming. And with a set of fins on, I could swim like a fish. But just with my ordinary fate, I tired out, and I wouldn't be able to go anywhere. And so we were in Calgary at that same time where I'm telling you about Jonathan. And I'm downstairs with the lady of the house, and she was going through her. It was like she was going through her. I can't remember how would I phrase it, Holy Spirit. Her experience, and she was going through all kinds of mental changes and physical changes, and so I'm sitting there beside her, and all of a sudden I'm in the water.
Whoa.
And I'm struggling. And I'm going, this isn't good. Now, I could see around me, so there was no literal water, but the fear was just as real as if I would have been in literal water.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
And mental anguish is actually worse than physical pain. Because there's no reason to it.
Yeah.
You know, if you got a broken arm, you know it's sore, it's going to hurt, and so you're going to try to protect it, right?
Right.
But here I was in drowning in the water, and I'm in a point of fear. And so all of a sudden I had a flash. And the flash was that I can do anything I want. Why not breathe underwater?
Oh, wow.
And so here I am sinking and getting lower and lower in the water, and I'm holding my breath. Well, how long can you hold your breath for?
Not very long.
A minute, maybe, if you've practiced a lot, maybe 2. But at some point in time, you're going to run out of air, right? And the challenge was, do I believe what I just heard, or do I let fear reign? And the physical being there to exemplify the fear, to magnify the fear. And so as I'm getting closer and closer to not having any breath left, I made a decision, and I just started breathing.
Now, was this your experience with this lady, or were you physically in water?
No. I wasn't physically in water. It was all
it was an illusion.
It was all an illusion.
And within the illusion, and then you decided to breathe within water, just like we did when we were in the mom's room, right? So that's cool.
And started swimming around and enjoying myself. There was no fear.
I see. So this kind of helped you overcome your fear of water.
Right.
Oh, very cool. Well, yes, it's all very connected.
Right.
For sure.
Always.
Yeah.
Always. Because nothing happens unless there's a connection there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And would you retell the story about Jonathan? Because I wanted to get that on tape.
Okay. Well, when we were in Calgary at this lady's house selling Vibroscans, and we were doing training, there was 5 people there. We were training on Vibroscan. This Marilyn, who was from New Brunswick, was part of the 5, and she mentioned that she was intuitive and psychic. But when I first met her, And I didn't think nothing of it. And Saturday, we had a great time. We just had a great, fun day. And Sunday morning, when she come back for the rest of the training, she walked in. As soon as she walked in, she said to me, she said, "I have a message for you, Robert." And I said, "Oh, from who?" She said, "From Jonathan." And I went, "Jonathan? Who's Jonathan?" She said, "Well, you and him were in a past life experience 400 years ago, and he wants you to, and needs you to forgive him." And I said, "What for?" She said, "Well, he killed you." And I went, "Well, that's probably a good reason to be forgiven." I just started laughing because I didn't know what else to do. What was I going to say? No. Because I wasn't even sure that what she was saying could even have been remotely true. But I accepted it. I heard it, and it didn't. There was no resistance. You see, anytime that you have a resistance to something, that's a point of fear that you have not let go yet. Okay? And how that's going to be let go so that you can allow that to be healed is the work of the universe or the Holy Spirit or Jesus or Buddha or whoever you connect to in enlightenment. And so I said to her, "Yeah, no problem." I said, and I spoke to Jonathan out loud. We were a room full of people. I don't know if they thought I was nuts, but I said to Jonathan, "You're forgiven, my friend." I said, "I am not angry."
And then you mentioned that stuck with you for 3 months.
But 3 months, that idea never let go of the feeling that I was feeling. I felt that there had to be something else.
Another side of the story.
Another side to the story. And so I phoned her up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, our time here, which was about 9 o'clock her time. And she answered the phone, and right away we started talking. And I asked her if she could maybe connect to Jonathan again, if she thought she could. And she said, "Oh yeah, no, I don't see any problem with that," she said. And so she come back, she put the phone down, come back a few minutes later. She said, "Yeah," she said, "Jonathan is here. And he wants to answer your question." And I said to her, I said, "Well, why did he kill me?" She said, "It wasn't his idea. It was yours. You and him were the best of friends. And he so loved you that you finally talked him into doing what you asked him to do, because he had no anger in his heart. There was no judgment in his heart. He wasn't trying to, justify himself. He was just trying to be an honest friend, a true friend. And because of that hurt in his own heart, he was stuck there for 400 years. He had never moved off that place. And after when we first connected and I forgave him, he then was able to move on and get onto his journey. But he had been stuck there for 400 years because of my
desire to experience
sudden death. Because that's pretty kinky, I think.
That's a good friend.
Yeah, that's a super friend. That he could have said no, and probably did in many ways, trying to not having to experience that, but because of our friendship and our sense of oneness.
And some contract
we were soulmates.
Yeah.
We were soul buddies.
So then, so it's kind of shows that life isn't always as it seems.
No, totally.
People that even seem maybe our enemies could be our best friends on the other side. That's right,
because they're contracts. They're all contracts that have to be fulfilled. Okay? And since then, every once in a while, I feel Jonathan, and he'll be there, and I'll bump into him or something, and I'll go, "Oh, okay, thanks, Jonathan." And it's just knowing that he's there for me, and that love has never left. That love has never, ever left. And I'm beginning to see the expansion of that same love in my heart for him. But not only for him, for all. Because as we come into oneness, as we start to understand and know who we are, then love is what we are.
Totally. And that's like, that there's no right or wrong.
There's no right or wrong. There's just the experience of the moment.
Yeah, and you mentioned suicide too, as we were talking.
Yeah, suicide is not right or wrong. It's just what is. Now, it's an abject fear that somebody just can't let go or won't, for whatever reason or another, want to let go. And like my son, you know, he was such a tender man. He was a big man, 350 pounds, and he had a heart as big as Texas, but he couldn't handle the pressure of the events that he was around. And yet, at his funeral, there was over 400 people come to his funeral. And for suicides 50 years ago, somebody commits suicide, nobody would go to the funeral. That was a big no-no, man. Oh, how dare he? You know, we're not going to support that. We're not going to go and tell everybody what we, you know, that he was nothing but, he proved it. And yet,
lots of fear around that in the past.
Yeah,
not so much.
It's our own fear that we ally towards somebody else. Huh? And I heard people stand up and tell how they appreciated my son, and how he was such a big teddy bear, and that he would just give of himself without reservation. You could always count on him. It didn't matter who. A friend to him was very, very important.
Now you said, is he back now?
No, my son is still. He's channeling books to children in Middle East. So,
wow.
Yeah, I'm thinking, well, there's something unusual. I never thought he would ever do that, but that's what he's doing. He's a storyteller in the Middle East for children.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, and you know, heart as big as all outdoors again.
Right.
And, you know.
So yeah, we always carry on, because energy can't be.
You can't kill energy.
Yeah.
And the mind is perpetual. It has no beginning. It has no end.
You have some other family members that are back, you think?
My mother's back.
Yeah?
She's my granddaughter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my son's daughter, the last daughter. I can still remember him when he phoned me up and said, Dad, he said, we have a girl. Irene just had a girl, and we're going to call her Angela. And it was just my mother's name.
Oh.
And he said, he said, do you think Grandpa?
Of course Grandpa would be proud.
I said, I believe so. I said, she'd not only be proud, she counted a privilege. And then, because I could never connect to her in the spirit. And so I was always wondering, again, thought, right?
Right.
Produces feeling. And that feeling was a wonderment feeling. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? And then all of a sudden, I was shown that she had come back as little Angela.
Cool.
And and all of our families, we've recycled all kinds of different times with one another in our extended families, our natural families, our surroundings. We've recycled in many ways, and you might be a woman in this lifetime, and the last one you might have been a male.
Right. And you were mentioning about karma and how, well, some people think that it's, you know, it's bad stuff. But
yeah, but that's only one side of the application. It's perception, right?
Perception produces projection.
Yeah, projection. We project it, right?
Yeah.
And it has to produce that perception because of how we think. Huh? And so if you think that you're judged because of your karmic past, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to set the scenario for that judgment to become a reality. But if you see it as being the good karma as being who you are as well, and that it'll all balance out, it'll all become one in the whole scenario of events that is called your life. There's no more fear there.
You kind of mentioned that karma's connected to our thoughts.
Yeah, it is. It is. Everything is connected to your thought. There is no thought separation between what is and what you are.
Wow.
It's all one.
Right. And so, explain again the process. There's thoughts that produce feelings.
Right. First of all, you have to hear something to cause a wonderment. Okay.
So a thought.
A thought. It becomes an expansion of energy. Okay. You might have just heard one word or two words that resonated with you, and that starts the process.
Okay.
It's like growing tomato seed. You got to plant it. But if you just throw it on the ground, don't expect much, right? But when it goes into its proper